we have a guest, Željka Markić. She is a leader of the organization In the Name of Family, characteristic organization, a very important organization from Croatia, and she also organized the constitutional referendum in Croatia, and I think that this is a good time to talk about this very important initiative, this very important referendum, because this referendum is talking about the fundamental values which we share. So, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank organizers for inviting me as a representative of NGO called In the Name of the Family. I'm by profession medical doctor and mother of 4 boys, and I became 3 months ago grandmother of 1 boy. So I have a lot of personal motivation to fight in the civil society for the better future of my country. I do care how Croatia and Europe will look in 10 or 20 or 30 years. And I think it's very important that we all take our responsibility and do whatever we can to improve the level of democracy in European Union. Okay, I will start with the first slide where I will show you how, next one, how in Croatia we welcome Poles when they come. This is how we welcome Poles when they come. Not all Poles, some Poles. This is welcome of Pope John Paul II in Croatia when he came to Zadar, and he created in Croatia image of Poland which is still very strong and very good. And Poland is always example of, for us, how the politicians should represent their voters and people. I know there are many problems here in Poland, but still for us, living in other countries in European Union, Poland is a sign of fighting for the voters, for the citizens in the right way. Okay, so here are some facts about Croatia. We are 10 times smaller than Poland. We have population of approximately 4 million. Capital is Zagreb. We are 86% people declare themselves as Catholics. We are a very beautiful country with more than 8 national parks, with very beautiful sea, and I'm sure some of you have visited our country. Okay, so from 1945 to 1990, we were part of socialist Yugoslavia, ruled by the Communist Party. We were one of the republics. And in 1991, we declared independence with 94% of votes voting yes. So we had a very long period of slavery and dictatorship. And then in 91, we became independent. And immediately after we declared independence, we entered into the war because we were attacked by Serbia and by Serbian rebels in Croatia. And this war lasted 4 years. I think it's very important that you have these key facts about our country, because we moved from one period of a totalitarian regime into the war immediately. It was defense war. Whole war was took place on the territory of Croatia. It lasted 4 years. 25% of our territory was occupied. 25% of the industry was destroyed in these 4 years, and more than 15,000 people were killed. During this war, more than 200 churches were shelled and destroyed. The city of Dubrovnik, well known, protected by UNESCO, was shelled at that time. So it was an attempt to devastate completely the culture of Croatia and all, I would say, symbols of faith and culture. We had 400 of our children were killed in bomb shelling, and more than 1,000 were wounded. And we have had more than 500,000 of displaced. And more than 180,000 homes were destroyed. Okay. So why am I telling you this? Because I think we fought a very, very difficult fight to be free and to have democracy in our country. In 1995, our army liberated 25% of the territory occupied. And in 2013, we entered into the European Union. Next one, please. Okay, so what I will share with you experience that we have when we speak about the rule of law in European Union on 2 examples. One example is referendum of marriage, because this case, I think, shows that rule of law is applied on some countries, the importance of rule of law exists in some countries, and in which countries it depends on how does the government of that country behaves toward European Commission. If the government is obedient to European Commission out of their own convictions because they really share values, or out of their personal interest because they want more money or good positions for themselves, then rule of law becomes something that can be discussed and it is applied in one way. If the country has a government which does not obey to European Commission without asking questions of what is good for their own country, then rule of law becomes a weapon, not a tool to achieve law and justice, but it becomes a weapon. Okay, so here is Croatia. My organization, my NGO, where I volunteer with pleasure for 6 years, together with many other groups and people, we organized the first citizens' initiative in Croatia. It meant that it was the first referendum held in 23 years. We had one referendum on independence and one referendum on marriage, and that's it until now, from 1991. Our initiative collected in 2 weeks more than 750,000 signatures. It is 20% of the total number of population. If you have, how many voters do you have here in Poland? 30 million, 35? What is voters? More or less. Let's say 30, so that I don't have problems with counting. Okay, 30. If you have 30 million voters, it would mean that, that you have collected 6 million signatures in only 2 weeks. This is the number, the percentage that we have collected in Croatia. And we asked, based on these signatures, they had to organize, our government has to organize, make possible a referendum, and on this referendum 66% of citizens voted for constitutional protection of marriage as union between a man and a woman. Why we did it? Because our left government, which was at that time in power, started to send us messages suddenly that it is not important does the child have a father and mother, or two fathers or two mothers, and we could see that they would like to use their majority in parliament to introduce law which would make equal marriage and the union between two homosexuals. Okay, so Croatia has the most restrictive law on referendum. This is important to understand because I want you to understand how difficult it was to collect these signatures. And we created a platform that didn't exist before. We just said, okay, let us organize ourselves and see if we can do something positive. If we can show to our politicians that there are many people in Croatia who do not agree with this approach, who have a different opinion. And at that time, 7 years ago, I really believed when you show politicians that there are many, many, many people for something, that they will respect it at that time. Okay, so our law says that you have to collect 10% of signatures of voters in only 2 weeks, and that collection has to take place in public places. So we cannot take these books around churches or institutions. No, we have to collect them in public places, and then in the end there are no deadlines for politicians, for authorities when to organize referendum. We had in this support of number of organizations, of the Catholic Church, of all churches actually in Croatia, Orthodox Church, Muslim community, different professional associations. So it was really, we created a very strong civil movement to protect marriage by the Constitution. Okay, this is example of people who, we had professionals, young students, families, people explaining, well-known singer in Croatia, well-known journalists. So we created a very positive campaign. Next one. And we put it, emphasize on marriage, why marriage is good, why marriage is important, and what does marriage mean for the society, for the culture. Because many people thought that it is self-understandable what is marriage, but then we learned that we need to give arguments, and we did. So our campaign was positive, and we voted yes, not no, but we voted yes for marriage as a union of a man and a woman, stressing, giving scientific arguments, not religious, scientific arguments for the reality in which for the child it is best to have father and mother. Okay, next one. So this is when we submitted signature. We organized a very big event in front of our government and our parliament. Next one. Next one. Okay, so what were the implications of this referendum? We won the referendum in spite of the government being against it, our prime minister, and in spite of the president at that time being against it. Consequence was that they both lost elections. The left government lost elections and the president lost elections. Next one. Okay, now, media. Okay, we did analysis of media after the referendum, and the situation was worse than the one I can see here in Poland. 70% of reports, of media reports, were against the referendum. 10% of reports were for, and 20% were neutral. And whoever works in media knows that neutral gets the color of the stronger message. So basically, it was that 90% of media reporting was against the referendum. And yet 66% of voters voted yes. Why am I telling this? Because it is important, but this was a unique situation where we really had opportunity to test the reality on the referendum. So we could see what people want, and we could see what media wants. Basically, if you were a Pole coming to Croatia 2 weeks before our referendum, and if the only thing you did was lock yourself into the hotel room and read media, watch television, listen to the radio, you would call me and ask me, hey, Željka, why do you participate? Why do you waste your time on this referendum? Because there is not one reasonable, clever, educated person who will come out and vote yes. This was the picture that media was creating. And yet, on the day of referendum, 66% of voters voted yes. So this artificial reality created by the media has certainly taken down the vote for between 15 and 20%. And the real numbers would be, of voters yes, would be around 80% if there was not such a negative campaign all the time. Okay, next one. Okay, but what happened after this festival of democracy that we called? After people have shown their will, after citizens have participated, as European Commission often tells us, we are transparent, we want citizens to tell us what they want. So we said, 66% said, we want marriage protected by constitution. We do not want adoption of children by homosexual couples, not because we hate them, we don't hate anybody, but because our state is responsible to take care of children. Okay, so this is our position. So what happened? Okay, this one. 6 months after we won on the referendum, in spite of the fact that the government, president, and media was against it, they introduced Partnership Act in July of 2014, allowing same-sex partnership, but at that time using majority. They used majority in the parliament to introduce this partnership. In the same way, as they confirmed later, they would have used this majority to introduce as they call it, gay marriage. But they couldn't because of referendum. They admitted that later. Okay, then they said it is only for the purpose of, inheriting, sharing economic wealth. We will not allow adoption of or fostering of children. Okay, Foster Act in 2018, same-sex partners cannot become foster parents. This was the law which was made 4 years later, confirming that homosexual partners will not be allowed to foster or adopt children. Next one. And then what happens? Media started with the pressure, and media is everywhere controlled. It is not that one morning editors get up and they say, now we will attack and now we will promote. No, it is, when you go back, you can find money and you can find who owns the media. So it's not very complicated actually. In every country you can find this out. So in our country, media started to explain that and campaign for a homosexual couple. They found 2 men who were presented as best father and mother ever, or whatever, and they started to put a pressure on everybody, on the society, on politicians, explaining that fostering should be allowed. And then what happened now, this year, that in February of 2020, because of the Fostering Act and because of the constitutional protection of marriage, they could not impose on Croatia the fostering and then, of course, as a next step, adoption of children by homosexual couples. The Constitutional Court responded to their request of this couple And they claim that Foster Care Act is constitutional, so that the law that says that does not include homosexual couples in fostering and adopting children is constitutional, but that state institutions must act against that law, and they must make it possible for homosexual couples in the partnership to foster, and later on they will be allowed to adopt children. Okay, so can you imagine this situation happening in the direction of any other situation that would not be attacked by European Commission and would not be, the rule of law would not be questioned? Of course, this was not. Why? Because it goes down the line with the positions of European Commission, with the values that they, or anti-values that they try to promote. So basically, this was a precedent for our constitutional court. It is political court because the judges are appointed by the two largest parties in Croatia, and they made a political decision that institutions should not respect law which is constitutional. Next one, please. Okay, so this is example one. I think this demonstrates very well the situation with regard to double standards that we have in the European Union at this moment. Also, I would like to stress that in Croatia, on every child that is available for adoption, there are 6 couples waiting to adopt this child, husband and wife, man and woman couples. And there is fostering in itself was not at all motivated or advertised, or that it was not enough promoted among general population, except for this case of this homosexual couple. Okay, second example is another referendum that we organized, because when, next one please. We organized another referendum with a goal to change the electoral law. Why? Because we are, as a non-governmental organization, we care about democracy. And we, at the beginning, could not understand who are the MPs who dare to impose law on partnership for homosexual couples at 6 months after the referendum. How do they dare to behave like this? Why they don't respect citizens, voters? Then we studied the law, and we found out that our law, electoral law, is created in such a way that it actually promotes the strength of the political party, as it was in communism, although it was only one party, but that it does not allow MPs to understand that they will not win next elections if they will behave against their voters. Okay, so we organized this initiative, 2014. At that time, still, we had left government in power. We collected more than 380,000 signatures in 2 weeks. And we had, at that time, both parties, left and right, against the change of law. Next one. Okay, our Minister of Public Administration, he claimed that okay, this is number of collected signatures is a percentage. So to calculate percentage and to know the number of signatures that one has to collect, you have to know exact number of voters. A number of voters in Croatia is still mystery. You know, they have to tell you this number depending, you know, depending. If it is a referendum, then we had 4 million voters. A couple of months later, we had elections. At that elections, we had 3.8 million voters. So it depends. So in this case, it was 4 million voters, and 380,000 signatures was not enough to change electoral law, because he claimed, at that time minister, that we didn't collect enough signatures. Okay, next one. And then, again, Constitutional Court confirmed what our minister said about the number of Croatian voters. Our initiative applied to the European Court of Human Rights in 2014, and we didn't receive any decision until now. Okay, next one. So we launched, as a response to the ratification of Istanbul Convention, which was ratified by now so-called right government, headed by Mr. Plenković, we organized again collection of signatures for change of electoral law, because he was voted by so-called right or conservative or Demo-Christian voters. He came in power as such, and then he imposed ratification of Istanbul Convention against the will of most of the voters that voted for him. Okay, so our aim was, again, democratization of electoral system. We collected signatures again 2 weeks in 2018, and we collected 400,000 signatures, what was now hopefully enough for the number of voters in Croatia. Next one. These are the things that we wanted to change. 3 preferential votes. Until the 2014, there were no preferential votes in Croatia. We got them after the first aim to change the law. Next one, please. Okay, so it was thousands of volunteers, people working for their free time. We didn't have any paid staff. It was all volunteering in Croatia, all over Croatia, in the collection of these signatures. And we collected again more than 10% of voters signed for change of electoral law, for referendum on change of electoral law. Okay, so we had 2 questions, collected more than enough, 10% more than needed. And now here comes the resolution of the situation. Next one, please. Okay, so this is the way we celebrated and we presented our signatures to the parliament. Next one. Okay, and then how does it work with our government, with Mr. Plenković? And how does the rule of law apply on this situation? Okay, our prime minister said, and his minister said, took signatures, they counted them, and they found out that there are not enough signatures, that we miss. Next one, please. Okay, this is the minister who was counted, who was responsible for counting, and this is assistant to minister who was responsible for counting. They are both currently under investigation for corruption, but they counted numbers well. We don't doubt that. Okay, can you go back with the slide, please? So what they said, they didn't allow any independent body to monitor how the signatures were checked by the government. And obviously the ruling party, now right ruling party, so-called right ruling party, they were against this referendum in the same way that the left ruling party was 4 years ago. And what they said that 30,000 signatures were discarded on arbitrary grounds. So 0.88% of signatures were missing for the first question, according to them, and the 2.2% of signatures were missing, according to them, for the second question. They didn't allow rechecking of signatures by any independent organization. We didn't insist that it's us. We asked, okay, let us choose independent, create independent body, that they count signatures. They said no. So our current prime minister did this, but nobody had any problems with this. There were no questions coming from European Commissions. No issues about the fact that the side which was interested in the outcome was the one who said that we miss less than 1% of signatures to organize a referendum. Next one, please. So these two were at that time responsible 2 years ago. Now they're both under investigation for corruption, but their counting of signatures is not put under the question mark. No. Why would they cheat with the signatures? Okay, they cheated maybe with some other things, but they were certainly honest about this. Okay, next one. Okay, so we have sent a report on the government obstruction of the referendum process to all MPs, EU Ombudsman, foreign embassies in Croatia, Venice Commission. So you can see the list of organizations that we contacted, showing them, explaining what has happened. We have received no response. Okay, imagine, I'm sure that here in Poland it would be different. Yes? So this is the way in which things are done, and these are the criteria which are applied in different countries on different initiatives, depending for what people are fighting. So if you fight for something that is not in accordance with the wishes of European Commission, or if you fight for values that they don't consider values, then different rules apply. And this is a problem. It is a huge problem. It is a problem of democracy. I have no problem with being a minority in any society, but I do have a problem if I am a majority, that they treat me as minority. Okay? So this, because we lived as a majority, being treated as a minority in communism. We know how it works. We know how media works when they use propaganda to stop any activity and any resistance. We know how it works when somebody, a supra body is created, and they decide about everything. Next one, please. Okay, so European Parliament election 2019 recommended that the electronic voting would be introduced, okay, to enhance the participation of the citizens. Croatia does not have electronic voting, and Croatia does not have possibility for people to vote outside of Croatia by post, so postal voting. We don't have it. All our citizens who find themselves outside of Croatia cannot vote. Again, it was not a problem. It is considered to be okay. Okay, next one. Okay, conclusion. So from 2013 to today, there were no reactions of European Union to these two cases that I have presented to you, on obstruction of citizens' initiative, on abuse of public institutions, abuse and exceeding the power of the Constitutional Court, and on not enabling correspondence and electronic voting. So no reactions. It is considered all these things happening in Croatia, there was no reaction. Thank you. Next one. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, it's very impressive, and maybe what you could tell us about the current state of play, which this bills. What is the status of the marriage now in the Croatia?
Well, currently it is whatever enters into the constitution by referendum can be removed from the constitution by referendum. So the protection of marriage, of union between man and woman, is protected by Croatian constitution. And as you could see, it was really a result of unquestionably democratic way of deciding what is normally recommended by EU institutions. But still, what is happening is that political parties are misusing their power to impose what they want in a sort of what you call a cultural war. And I agree, it is a cultural war taking place in Europe. But what I would say, what is new for us, first, the new thing is that we have to give arguments to people. When we started this referendum on marriage in one small town in Croatia, well known for being religious and being traditional, okay, our coordinator there, she called us 2 days before we were supposed to start collection of signatures, and she said, listen, I have a problem here. People are telling me that, am I crazy? Why am I going to collect signatures? That marriage is between man and woman. They said, why anybody would, find some better work to do? So basically, many people did not understand that they have to give arguments for such a natural thing as marriage, which from the Roman time, when it was not a Christian culture, was seen as the essential part of the social structure. And they were not Christians, so it has to do with the natural law and with the logic of organization of society. So yes, we learned that we have to give arguments, and we learned that we have to continue to fight within the civil society, not only political arena, for promoting certain values.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing us this experience. Very interesting experience. So maybe do you have some kind of question? No? So once again, thank you very much.
You're welcome.